But we were talking about just what yesterday was and really what it meant for the rest of the league, because Saquon Barkley kept saying it, man. Kept saying it through the season. Kept saying it once they punched their ticket to the Super Bowl after winning the NFC Championship. We wanted, his words, we wanted to show the world that you can still get to a Super Bowl and now win the Super Bowl being a run-first football team. So, Cecil, I asked you, I asked Phil, I asked Zach Bye on Friday, what will matter more? Head coach quarterback combo that is Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, or the trenches where the Philadelphia Eagles dominate on the offensive side, running the football, like we just mentioned. And then defensively, they're actually middle of the pack, 43 sacks I think they had on the season, which is 20 less than the Broncos had at 63 that led the NFL. But you just go back to the Super Bowl 2 years ago in Arizona. This same Eagles team, now with upgrades on the defensive line, had a 70-sack season, and we know what happened to them in the Super Bowl, losing by a game-winning field goal. It was so different this time. Vic Fangio was the guy calling the plays, not the consultant suggesting the plays, and that was a world of difference.
Yeah, that was a world of difference, and I think the Eagles gave a blueprint for the rest of the league, but specifically for the teams in the AFC West. Now, the Chargers are already going to do it because it's Jim Harbaugh. And even with Justin Herbert, he's like, let's run the ball more.
Yeah.
It's like you have Justin Herbert, but they need a few more weapons, but they're going to be built to work within the trenches. We don't yet know what the Raiders are going to be with Pete Carroll running the show, but with Chip Kelly, that should be a high-paced offense, so maybe a little bit opposite there. But again, it's Chip Kelly, so we'll put a pin in that and see what they have to do at quarterback. But for the Denver Broncos specifically, you already knew the Broncos needed a running back, and even though Saquon Barkley had 50 yards and 2.3 yards a carry, he impacted the game so much because Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, was just cramming the box to stuff the run. He did stuff the run, but he lost bad and didn't have another plan for it. Didn't have an adjustment for it. Didn't have a hey, let's stop run blitzing and let's back up a little bit and let's play a little soft coverage. Nope. They just kept doing the same thing because they didn't want Saquon Barkley to beat him. And then they got beat by Jalen Hurts and the passing game. So I think it's a message for the league, but mainly for the Denver Broncos. You're built in the trenches already. Your offensive line is already there. Maybe not as good as the Eagles, but you have a really good offensive line. Get a real running back now. Jaleel McLaughlin's nice. He's there at 5 o'clock every morning. It's not going to change his game.
Nope.
I happen to like Blake Watson, but he couldn't even get on the field last year. When he did, it was okay, but that was one game. Nobody cares. This league is about getting it done. You know who could get it done for you? Devin Neal in the 3rd round. Ashton Genty in the 1st round. Get a real running back and watch this team explode.
I would absolutely love it because that's what I kept thinking about. And I don't want to call Jalen Hurts. He certainly wasn't yesterday a game manager. Yeah, maybe a little bit, honestly. But I don't think that's as a bad word as people want it
They're
to
all
be
game managers
when you hear it. Right.
Yeah.
So you think about this blueprint that we're talking about. All right, so a game-managing quarterback that can be above average at times when it's called upon, and Jalen can do that. He certainly did it yesterday. I think about Bo Nix when I say those words, right? A game-managing quarterback that can exceed expectations when called upon. We saw tiny bits of that this season, and I would expect that we see more moving forward. So quarterback, all right, yeah, you can see that being a similar conversation there. Bo still has some work to do to be on the level of Jalen Hurts, and now he's at MVP in the Super Bowl, so it elevates him a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you're talking about it. It's the running back. Now, Kellen Moore, who calls the plays for the Eagles, or did yesterday, he's now going to be the Saints coach. He said it, and they highlighted this on the broadcast a couple of different times yesterday. He said, I had to go to Jalen Hurts at one point and say, we're throwing the ball too much.
Yes.
Now, ironically, it might have to be Bo Nix that goes to Sean Payton and says, we're throwing the ball too much.
Right.
But I think that there are some comparables to this of, you don't ask your quarterback to go out and win you the game every single week. There will be times where you require him to do that, and he lives up to the bill. I think Bo is certainly capable of that. But the question of, if we go to the blueprint, one is, can VJ do the same sort of things with less talent on the defensive line? For now, you can get there. And do we actually trust Sean Payton to be a guy that goes, yeah, we are throwing the football too much?
Yeah, maybe we should run the ball a little bit more, but maybe if he has that dominant player, that won't be a part of the conversation.
Fair point.
If he has
I'm willing to give him benefit of the doubt.
Right. I'm willing to see it work in different ways because what did Jalen Hurts do yesterday on the ground? 79 yards, something like that? Whatever the number was. What was the number, Kev? 70 yards?
72.
72 yards. Okay, there we go. Bo Nix could do that.
He did it against the Saints in New
10
Orleans.
carries, 75 yards, right? So you have a quarterback that can manage the game. You have a quarterback that can run. And Bo Nix is an advanced passer who can get better when you get better weapons around him. They went to the playoffs with very little around Bo Nix. I want to certainly emphasize that without taking shots at anybody that's there on offense. Not named Courtland Sutton, because Courtland Sutton's a real one.
Yeah.
He's maybe not the number one. I think that's a tired argument. He's their number one, and comparatively speaking, he posts wide receiver one numbers. Like it or not, he's not Justin Jefferson, okay? Hey, shocker, guys. Courtland Sutton's not Jamar Chase. But I'll tell you this, he's a damn number one. So you went basically with like one weapon into the postseason, into Buffalo, a tough place to play. Like, you went there and you didn't get it done. What happens when you add a running back, a real joker, a tight end, more receiving weapons? The receiving weapons develop, like trade for Deebo Samuel, whatever that answer is. I think the Philadelphia Eagles give you the blueprint if you're the Broncos, and that blueprint is run the damn ball. Come on, Sean, run the ball. Why does Drew Brees only have one Super Bowl?
Oh, because they didn't run the ball enough?
Maybe. I know the refs screwed over New Orleans a lot.
A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, that's also part of this. Like, Sean Payton, you're the greatest guy ever. Just ask you, why didn't Drew Brees get more than one? It's on you,
question.
bro.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, what do you want to be, the Nikola Jokic of the NFL? What about the other side of this?
Wow. You just hit on something there.
I
mean, because Brees is a multi-year 5,000-yard passer, right? We're talking about passing too much.
Yeah.
He was a multi-year 5,000 yards has only been done, I believe, like 7 times, and there's like 5 quarterbacks to do it. But Dan Marino did it in 84, and then it didn't happen until like 2007 or 8 or whatever the number was. So it never happened. For like 30 years, it never happened. And then Drew Brees comes around. He's throwing for 5,000 yards all the time. He's only got 1 ring.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, with the greatest season of all time. And what's the number? Kev knows the numbers off his heart. 5,577.
5477.
5477. He does know it by
55
heart.
touchdowns, 10
There you go.
interceptions.
There you go. 5477 and 55 touchdowns. What'd they win that year? Nothing.
They didn't, yeah.
Okay? You can pass too much. You need to run the ball, especially in the postseason where defense can win championships. So it's a message for VJ. You don't need to blitz all the time, man, and get yourself a damn inside linebacker. Pay up for Zach Bond. His price tag went up. I got Walmart.
Yeah. Dude, that is something what Zach Bond was able to do. Now, you're right that the price tag went up. The diving interception, I said it in the NFC Championship game, which I had to go back and watch because I wanted to see how much he was and where he was all over the field. He did it again yesterday. And this is a guy, I love that they kept saying it, that it was the Saints. They draft him as an outside linebacker. He's struggling to stay on the practice squad and get any real reps when Vic Fangio finds him and says, you know what? You're actually an inside linebacker, and now he's an all-pro. Now he's about to get the biggest payday of his entire life. And I'm with you. I would love for that to come via the Denver Broncos because, I mean, when we're talking about the biggest payday of his life, what do you think that number is for an inside linebacker? And keep in mind, the Broncos have about $52 million to play with this year.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
what's a top tier inside linebacker?
Well, what? Roquan Smith. Kev had that number last week. Roquan's at 20. Is that right? You said it last week.
20
What's
million.
Roquan? 20 a year. Yeah. So there you go. Is he going to make $20 million a year? Probably not.
He's 28. He'll be 29 in December.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you're looking at that, and we've already talked about them giving Courtland Sutton money.
Mm-hmm.
If they go that route, you're doing 2 big deals. It's Courtland Sutton and it's Bond.
Yeah. I'm
all right
fine
with
with
that?
that. I'm fine with that.
And then you draft Ashton Genty and
I'm drafting,
or Colston Loveland.
and I'm not saying you need a 2017 draft. You don't, okay? In the 2017 draft for the Saints, they got 4 All-Pros. Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, Alvin Kamara, Trey Hendrickson. Okay? 4 of them. You got 4 All-Pros in that draft. I'm not saying George Payton needs to go 2017, Mickey Loomis, Sean Payton, New Orleans Saints. He doesn't need to do that. But I'm here to tell you, if you get Colston Loveland and you get Devin Neal. Like, those are your answers. So if you tell me the 4 biggest offseason moves are Colson Loveland, Devin Neal, Cortland Sutton re-upped, and Zach Bond, I go, you can win the AFC West.
That's a pretty good offseason.
You can win the AFC West. You don't need to spend this money willy-nilly. You need to spend it the right way. And what did we say about Greg Penner last week? What's his superpower? He's rich.
He's rich, yeah.
And what do rich guys do?
They win.
Not all of them, but they spend it when you need to spend it. You need to spend it on Zach Bond. You saw it in the Super Bowl. What does an inside linebacker give you? The ability to not have to blitz and cover up for your inefficiencies that you've had since Danny Trevathan left.
We watched it all season. Either Mahomes rushing up the middle, Travis finding a soft spot, stopping in the middle. You know what the Chiefs didn't do yesterday? Utilize the middle of the field at all. They didn't do anything until the latter part of the game when Philadelphia was playing the clock
garbage time.
and no longer playing the opponent across from them. But, man, you're right. And I think it's a situation, too, where, one, if you're Philly, this is what happens to championship teams. We know from experience with the Nuggets and Avalanche recently and the Broncos a few times in their past. Now the Eagles are going to have rich people problems. Mm-hmm. Oh, we want to run it back, but he's a free agent.
Yep.
He wants a restructure.
Lost Kellen Moore.
You've lost Kellen Moore. That's another great point. All of these things are going to happen, and Zach is going to be looking for. That's what I said. I don't mind it that much if you're going to have to overpay, because I think a part of Zach, and I know his agent will be telling him this, is you are going to be 29 in December. You've now played your whole NFL life on the minimum deal. You just won the Super Bowl. You just had a diving interception on Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. If there's ever a time to get a little greedy and go for your cash, this is it, and it's probably the last time. So I don't think it's just Denver exclusively.
Right.
I think 30 other teams are going to have to overpay for Bond services if they want them.
Yeah, no one can overpay more than the Broncos, though.
No.
So set it up and knock it down. You need to address that. Nick Bolton didn't have a great game, but I still think he can run.
Yeah, what was that about? People say Nick Bolton's they're like, he can't run anymore. And then I Google, I'm like, he's 24. Why can't he run anymore?
Yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, and I've passed on the information of people I talked to around the Chiefs that I was kind of clowning with them about, hey, Nick Bolton will be a Bronco next year, and they're like, take him, he can't run. It looked like he could run to me.
Yeah.
He just running into the wrong players.
Right. He did take out his own dude.
Running into some penalties there also with Nick Bolton. But I think you might have seen in that Super Bowl the next Broncos inside linebacker, at least the target, either Nick Bolton or Zach Bond. It needs to be one of the two, and make it happen, man. You saw it. The blueprint is there. Run the ball more. On defense, you don't have to blitz all the time. They blitzed 30% of the time last year. The Eagles blitzed 19% of the time. The sack numbers are great, but for me, it's about what wins in the postseason. You know what happens when you blitz a great quarterback? He kills you.
He's going to take advantage of that.
He kills you. You can blitz Gardner Minshew, okay? That's fine. You can blitz, name some other slappy quarterback, right? You can blitz Derek Carr. Whatever. When you blitz Pat Mahomes, he kills you. When you blitz Josh Allen, he kills you. When you blitz Lamar Jackson, he kills you. You have to figure out a way to get home without sending the house. Because when you send the house, a smart quarterback's going to know where you're blitzing from and how to get past it. Tom Brady said it. And I don't know, Kev, did you get that audio from Brady? And I don't know if it's on the rundown. I apologize. About Brady talking about how he would know the plays. He said he knew Kansas City's defense better than they knew it.
Oh, wow.
So when they would get on the field and they would start to adjust, it's the Peyton Manning thing. And I texted to you, Kev. Look at our text chain. And I said, Bo has this same power. And I'm not saying Bo's Tom Brady, don't at me, bro, okay? But I do believe Bo Nix will win at least one Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. But here's the thing. What's Bo's superpower? He's a supercomputer, right? Mm-hmm. How many guys, Mike Evans specifically, how many guys clowned on me after the draft? Because, Lamb says he's a supercomputer. And then the first 4 games, he didn't look real good.
No, he did not.
And then guess what? Struggle, improve, excel. Wonder where I've heard that before. The supercomputer brain that resides within Bo Nix's head is something that will work to his advantage as the legs go away from you. Mm-hmm. You can't run forever in this league. You can run, and you can get you a ring by running, but eventually you're going to have to win from the pocket. Bo Nix can run now, and he can beat you from the pocket. And in the future, when his brain goes, I already know what you guys are doing, and not only do I have Cortland Sutton, but I have this other plethora of weapons, now you're in trouble. What did Sean Payton say? We're going to be a problem? Mm-hmm. We're going to be a problem.
We're going to be a problem.
Yeah. 1,000%. 1,000% they can be a problem because Bo Nix's superpower is that of, oh, I already know what you want to do. And I know the workaround of that. So if you blitz Bo Nix, and Kev, also get this for me, please. Bo Nix's numbers under pressure. I should know him off the top of my head. I don't. That's my bad. But Bo Nix, he will be one of the quarterbacks that if you blitz, Bo Nix will kill you. That will happen, and we saw shades of that this year.
Let me ask you this, going back to what we said about Cortland and Zach Bond. Bond being an inside linebacker that the Saints drafted with Sean there, and then went to Philly, and then
they didn't use him right,
and then won the Super Bowl yesterday. So we've talked about Chris Godwin before. Let's say these three players. It's Cortland Sutton, it's Chris Godwin, and it's Zach Bond. You can only have two of the three come to Colorado. One's already here, obviously, in Cortland. Yeah. But is that it? Is it what we just said? You give Cortland 20, you give Zach 20, boom, you're off and rolling? Or would your duo between the three be different?
Yeah, no, it's Sutton and Bond. If those are the two of the three, it's Sutton and Bond. And then I'm relying on the constant transformation of Marvin Mims, and I'm relying on them drafting the right players, drafting the right running back, drafting the right tight end. That's what I'm looking for if I'm the Denver Broncos. So, yeah, it would be those two. If I had a preference, it's those two. The third receiver, Chris Godwin, or, trading for Debo, your second receiver technically, that's all nice. It's nice talk show fodder. But the reality is you need an inside linebacker bad. And Cortland Sutton deserves a raise and more guaranteed money. Point blank period. Like it or not, number one or not, Cortland Sutton deserves to get paid. He wanted it last year. You didn't give it to him, which is fine. That made sense to not pay him last year.
It's a prove it thing. We said that Sean wants to see it for 2 consecutive years.
And then he proved it.
Be it good or bad, because he gave Jerry the bad benefit and Cortland the good benefit.
They tell us to prove it, and then we go prove it. You know what we're doing? Now it's time to get paid.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Exactly right. I already proved it. I understand that. Oh, it's time to prove it. Yeah. And then when I do, it's time to pay.
And like Cortland Sutton, I'm down to sign a $20 million deal, right?
I could do 4 hours of radio a day.
Yeah, right.
With crosstalk for $20 million
for $20
a year.
million?
Yeah, I could do that. Let's make that happen.
That wouldn't be a bad setup. All right, keep your texts coming in. Let us know what you'd pick of the trio there. 303-713-1043, RamosLaw.com text line. And is that good enough to really be a contender in 2025? You pay Cortland, you get him locked up for, what do we say, it's 2 years guaranteed, and then that third year is TBD. Honestly, Cease, I think it would be pretty similar for a guy like Zach Bond. You front load that contract for a couple of years with $38 million guaranteed for the first two, and then in that third and final year, let's see how your body looks. And if it hasn't broken down, we'll gladly talk about a restructure. Not give, but talk about a restructure, and then see where we are from there.
Yep.
And it gives you, there's your window, right? We're talking about the Bo situation. You go 2 or 3 years. Well, then you got to start talking about team option, maybe get ahead of it that year, bye week, whatever the case may be. But it gives you about a 2 or 3 year window with Bo. Focus on the inside linebacker position. The defense is kind of secure at that point, and you are still developing these young playmakers on the offense.
Do you like horror movies?
I do. A lot.
What's the best one
that I've ever seen?
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, it's real cheesy now, and it didn't hold up, but when I watched it at 8 years old, it scared the crap out of me, which is the original Exorcist.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Devil movies, they bother me.
There was always, I don't know how many people saw it because it was kind of cheesy too, but The Exorcism, you can see where I go with these. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I was like a teenager at the time, and she was in college, and I was like, oh my God, that's going to happen to somebody I know.
That's going to happen to somebody I know, exactly. Well, the Chiefs are no longer the horror movie they used to be. They're no longer, they're no longer the team. They're no longer Jason or Freddie. It's like the Water Boy when you can finally see, like, oh, it's a little baby. The little puppy dog face, right? It's Bruce's face over there. It's not Andy Reid crushing those chicken nuggets. It's actually Bruce's face.
Yeah.
Your wiener dog.
Yes.
It's that on Andy Reid. Like, the Broncos, your window is now. The Super Bowl proved a few things. 1, blitz a little less. 2, run the damn ball. Actually, that's 1. Run the ball. 2, blitz a little less. And then 3, the Chiefs, we already knew they were beatable, but they're no longer this dominant, oh my God, you got to deal with Pat Mahomes for the next 10 years. That's true, but it's not going to be the same when Chris Jones retires. It's not going to be the same when Travis Kelce retires, which may be this year for both, honestly. We'll see what Chris Jones does. But, like, that's a situation where you have an opportunity. You draft the right way. You get a Zach Bond in free agency. You're smart with your money. You spend your money, but you're smart with your money. You invest properly. I could go on such a rant there. Invest properly. You don't need to be on all those apps, Kev. You need to invest properly. If you do that with Zach Bond, you draft the right way, you win the AFC West, and you're a force in the postseason because you're built for postseason success.
You know what? You brought up Chris Jones. This just popped back into my head. They showed him with the DeAndre Hopkins drop. He goes down to the grass, and he's so upset. And then he saw him getting his neck worked out because of the
after the tush
push
yeah.
and all of that. And then at one point, he's like shaking his leg off. And I shouldn't think this because he's a pro athlete and they're risking their bodies every single play. But that play when he started shaking his leg off, and the broadcasters, Tom and crew, are like, "Oh, there's no contact there. I wonder how it happened." I'm like, "Oh no, he's just done. He doesn't want to be a part of this anymore. He knows they're getting their ass kicked, and he doesn't want to play anymore." That's exactly what I thought. Probably the wrong frame of mind, but that's what I thought when I saw Chris
body
Jones.
language is a thing.
Yeah.
What was the body language of the Chiefs after halftime? I don't want to be here.
That's what I kept tweeting about it. Like, just take the camera off the game. I want the alternate broadcast of the team that's losing because I want to see Travis Kelce cry. I want to see Chris Jones shed some tears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I want to see.
Look how off Mahomes was with Kelce. Again, was Mahomes sleepy?
Did you see?
Was he hungover? Like,
did you see Kelce walk into halftime?
Yeah.
He's like mumbling to himself. What the? Is what he was mumbling. If
Yeah.
you could read his lips.
Yeah.
He didn't know what was going on. First time he'd ever been shut out in the first half of his playoff life without a catch.
Yes, and I know that early on there was the OPI against A.J. Brown, which actually was OPI.
Oh, I was furious
at me,
about
bro.
it until the replay. And
Yeah,
I'm
the
like,
replay, you're like,
there it
okay,
is.
it's OPI and all that. But, like, the refs called a fair game. Mahomes got the hell beat out of him.
Yeah, I did.
And there weren't any flags for roughing the passer. Gee, what's it like when you face Kansas City when the game is called fairly? This is the result.
That one where he took the hands to the face and got kind of bent backwards. I was like, hell yeah. Keep him in the game. Let's see some more.
Why was
of
he
this.
in the game?
I don't know.
I thought Carson Wentz, once you saw Kenny Pickett come in,
Yeah.
I was like, why is Mahomes still in the game? Like, they've already tempted the football gods. By the way, the football gods struck back yesterday. But, like, why would you have Pat Mahomes in the game when you're not going to win, Andy? And Mahomes, go down fighting. Like, no, put in Carson Wentz. You lost. You lost. Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
Yep. All right, Broncos country, you tell us you like the idea of Zach Bond in free agency or Nick Bolton. We didn't talk a ton about him because I think Cease and I both like Bond more than Bolton, but either would be an upgrade at inside linebacker. Give us your answers on the RamosLaw.com text line.